Okay, Brittani McNeal, thank you so much. We just got connected to our Facebook Live. I really appreciate your joining us here on Why We Do What We Do, the Marsy's Law interview series, where we highlight really some of the superstars of the nation that are involved in the survivor space and the victims' rights space. Um, it was brought to my attention after we awarded you the Marsy's Law Champion Award during Domestic Violence Month in October that you are really doing some groundbreaking things in the area of academia when it comes to victims' rights, victim services. And so I wanted to get you on here as soon as possible. I really appreciate you taking time. This is a busy time for you because you're in the middle of grading presentations and doing final grades, just as busy for your students. So I just wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about your journey is really incredible. What we do in this interview series is we talk a little bit about well, the name itself, why we do what we do, is why people are motivated to get involved in the victims' rights space. Your journey is is really unique because it goes from being a first class college athlete to a professor to someone who is involved in public safety and that wants to bring the victims' rights part of public safety to the classroom.
Yes.
And you're doing it at a very high level. And I want you to tell us a little bit about your journey, how you started, and take us start us at Bowling Green.
Oh, you want to go all the way back to Bowling Green. Okay. So, of course, like you said, this was not the dream. The dream was not to be here full blown in academia and public safety. I wanted to run track. That was the whole goal. I wanted to win the Olympics. I wanted to do those things. But I guess God had other plans for my life, especially with the ankle injury and having professors motivate me to keep going and also introduce me to different things. So, even while I was at Bowling Green, I still was able to still keep up with my academics. I actually graduated earlier than I normally would have and stayed there on an academic scholarship and a athletic scholarship. And I was able to get involved with a lot of human trafficking researchers and entities there. And that was kind of the goal. I was like, oh, I really like writing about it. I like researching about it. And that's kind of how I ended up getting enticed into, hey, do you want to do a PhD? And I'm like, um, sure, sure. And then it came about that University of Arkansas Little Rock was like, oh, we have spots open for the fall, and I'm like, okay, let's go to the South. Being from Chicago and staying at least close, it was like a big jump for me. But I was like, okay, this is the opportunity that a lot of people, especially with my background and where I come from, don't have. So I took that journey there, and that was the most, how can I put it? That was the most life changing thing of my life because you don't hear a lot of PhD students that get the opportunity to have that insight from a practical standpoint. So while I was there, I was able to not just get involved with victim advocacy and victim services, I was able to get involved with the correction system and also juvenile system. But my favorite part and eye-opening part that I was able to do was to be the program coordinator for the Arkansas Victims Advocacy Training. And what this was pretty much it's a week-long training that I was able to put together. I got to communicate with so many great people, those who did victim advocacy training, those who were survivors, those who were in the court system. And we basically came together in Little Rock for a week and they put on these trainings. And for me, it was eye-opening because if you think about it, not a lot of criminal justice curriculum have that aspect of victims in it. And I actually say that because right now, while I'm in Middle Georgia, I'm kind of fast forwarding. They don't have a victimology course. So it's almost like, you hear about law enforcement, you hear about corrections, you hear about the courts. But what about those small entities that also matter when it comes to public safety and justice for all? So for me, it was just being in a room, hearing, the different types of trauma-based training they have for victims, hearing about the rights that victims have, and sometimes hearing about the things that victims don't know when it comes to the whole entire process from beginning to end and after. So I only did that for 2 years while I was there, but it kind of was like one of those things where it's like okay, I want to bring this with me as I continue my journey as going into professor life. So at the sweet age of 26, I got my first job in Georgia. Literally, I don't know why I came over here, but I was in Georgia and landed at University of West Georgia. And during my 8 years there, it was kind of one of those things where I'm young. Um, I'm trying to actually fit in, but I'm also trying to still get to know me as a person and what I wanted to do. And so got all the way to tenure and really jumped on the bandwagon of, okay, it's time now. I got tenure, so that's out the way. So literally the year after I got tenure, I started to really jump into curriculum development and actually bringing up victim advocacy and services. But it also was about the students. The students at University of West Georgia, especially in the program, it was about 60% female. And a lot of these individuals, they wanted to do something. They wanted to have an impact on somebody's life because of their own trauma. So a lot of them was like, I don't want to be a cop. I don't want to be a corrections officer. I want to be able to help. That was the main thing, to help. And so I was like, I said, this is the time to actually introduce this. So funny thing is, I sent an email just out of the blue. I was like, I'm just going to send an email to PACGA, so the Prosecuting Attorney's Office here in Georgia, just to see, if the victim's director would answer. She answered. And I was so happy because I was like, oh my God, this is so awesome. Especially since if you know anything about academia, we kind of stay in our own little bubble. We tend to just focus in on us, focus in on what makes us look good instead of saying, okay, we're doing research that is to help the entities on the outside. So immediately we linked up. And funny thing, she actually lives by me, which I was like, oh, this is awesome too. So we met up, we got a plan together. I worked out the curriculum with some of my colleagues at West Georgia, and we just had a big meeting to hash it out. And it actually went live last fall. So fall 2024. Yes. So that went live and it's been going great. A lot of the students have been loving it. Even this semester, I keep, in contact with the victim advocate teaching the course. And she said there's 60 students right now in the class. And they're able to get the opportunity to be introduced to, Marshall's law, things that victims need from beginning to end, some of the trauma-based things that they need to look for, resources for them, but also connect with current victim advocates right now in the state of Georgia. And it's been so awesome. And it was kind of sad that, I kind of had a midlife crisis and did not know or think I was good enough for the field. So that's why I was like, okay, academia, I've been in school my whole life. I need a break. So that's when I ended up at Georgia Public Safety Training Center. So this is where all public safety individuals in the state of Georgia go. And I kind of landed in basic law enforcement training and was able to actually do their 1 credit hour for crime rights, which is actually interesting, but it's only 1 credit hour. So for me, and even talking to the deputy director who's actually in the program that I'm over now, we're kind of trying to mesh the resiliency part of law enforcement training, but training itself with victims. So we want to get that entity more with law enforcement because, as you know, law enforcement, they have communication and contact with victims. Even if you think about corrections, they have contact with victims in the system, even if it's just inmates. So to kind of really understand the workings of how to best serve victims, no matter who they are, where they are, is so important. So for me, I was like, this work has to continue. So this opportunity came up after my ankle surgery. So I had ankle surgery earlier this year, and I was like, I have to really get back into academia because I feel like there needs to be a bridging of practical and academics. And so with my experience with, the practical side and then, having experience in academia, I was like, okay, I need to find something that fits me. And Lord and behold, the position of program coordinator for the Doctor of Science in Public Safety came up, which is a brand new program, one of the only programs in the country. And I knew it was going to be a big task because I've heard that there was some, still some kinks to work out, still a lot of things to do. But I was like, okay, let's do it. So it's still in the same area as Gypstick. It's like literally 20 miles down the road down in Macon, Georgia. And I took this position with the premise of, okay, what can I do from undergrad, master's, and at the doctoral level to really bridge the gap of all of public safety? Because if you think about it, we all have contact with victims. We all have contact with some type of public safety entity. I don't want to leave anybody out, because if you think about it, we all collaborate, we all have to communicate, and we all have to be there for each other to get things done. So that should not leave victims out. So as soon as I came in, I literally was like, okay, I want to bring everything that I did at West Georgia here, because why not? At this point, why not? So the victim service certificate right now, and it's just not a certificate, I'm actually doing a minor as well at Middle Georgia to kind of reach other people. So West Georgia just reaches criminology students. I'm going to reach social work, psychology students, and also criminal justice students there. Once that kind of gets started, we're also thinking about putting that into the doctoral program, but more so on the side of continual education for those already in the field. So this is not just for victim advocates, it's also for, let's look at police officers on victims, trying to get them to understand it. Let's look at EMS, emergency management, that sort of thing, because it has to be more expansive. You just can't say, okay, let's do 1 hour in basic law enforcement training and then expect them to really understand how they best can serve victims that they come in contact with every single day. So literally my whole goal right now, which I feel like I have purpose with what I'm doing, is to really bridge that gap and provide as much as I can from the academic side and ensure that the practical side is bridged together, so that from beginning to end, and I say beginning to end, of students who come in who don't know what they want to do, they have all the options available to them to make a decision, but to know that they all are interconnected in a way. So that's my whole goal and story.
Well, one word that came up was purpose. You certainly have purpose. There's no doubt about that. It didn't surprise me when I first started to get to know you, that you are a sprinter.
Mhm.
You move fast. Like you said, at the age of 26, all of a sudden you were becoming a rising star in the world of academia after you. And I think you still have some records at Bowling Green too, don't you?
I have records at Bowling Green. I have records in Illinois. Still, it's funny because when I was having my ankle surgery, my old trainer sent me the record just to remind me of, okay, you still got this. So it's one of those things I always bridge to go from, okay, my academics is shaped by my athletics. Being an athlete, being so versatile, really shaped me to be the person I am today, and to really go after not just what I want, but to ensure everybody around me is winning. So I don't want to just be like, okay, I'm doing this for me, because I'm not. The future needs this. People don't have opportunities that I had. So why not be that person to be like, okay, let me come on over here, let me help you, let me provide anything that I can so that you succeed and we all succeed together.
Yeah, well, and the other thing is, where there's parallels is, like you said, everyone needs to succeed together, but you're also breaking new ground. You broke records, and you're breaking new ground when it comes to victim services. I mean, I know from having spent many years in the district attorney's office as a prosecutor, um, and especially as a homicide prosecutor, it really takes a very special person combined with special training, to really have the kind of trauma-informed, survivor-centered approach to the job. And it can't just happen when you're onboarding someone and say, you're going to now work in the district attorney's office and you're a victim witness advocate. And there is a family in the hallway who just lost the love of their life to homicide. And I'd love you to go and tell them all about how the criminal justice system works. It's overwhelming, for someone who's in the victim services uh, industry. And for you to be able to provide this kind of all-inclusive training, and not just for people who will be victim witness advocates, but people who will work with victim witness advocates in law enforcement and in healthcare, and all of you're opening this up to all, not just criminology majors, and the fact that you're going to have a minor in it, because it's when a police officer is working with a victim for the very first time, a police officer has to start somewhere too. We don't have the 25-year trained police officer on the scene in every single case. When they are first starting out, there's a certain way that there's a certain kind of way to approach every single case, every single victim, every single family that comes certainly with experience. But why not give them as much training based on your experience on the front end? It's really amazing. And the fact that you just decided to cold call someone and email them and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" After you had done, I just love the part of your story where you coordinated the Arkansas Victims Assistance Academy, and you were really passionate about that work. And when you wanted to transfer that into academia, it it didn't stop you that it hadn't happened before. There's a great quote in Emerson's Self-Reliance, that and he says, "In every work of genius, we recognize our own rejected thoughts." And what he means by that is there's so many great ideas out there that people have in their heads, but they just reject them and they say, I don't know, I don't think so, because they don't have that at this university. So they must not have it for a reason. And then when you see someone like Brittani McNeal all of a sudden do it, then people say, "Wow, I thought of that." It's yeah, but you didn't do it.
Right.
So you deserve a great amount of credit for actually taking that step and not having a thought be your work of genius be a rejected thought, but it was a thought that you acted on. And so many people are going to benefit from that. Tell us a little bit about so what you did before at the University of West Georgia, for which you and your colleagues were recognized, starting that victim services certification program. That was exciting in and of itself. Now, the fact that you are taking it really to a next level, you're now teaching in a doctorate program, but you're going to bring this victim services certification program, expand it not just to a certification program, but to a minor, to the whole student body. And you're confident that that's going to happen, maybe even for the next academic year where you are.
Yes. So coming to middle, so the reason why I came to Middle Georgia is because of the leadership at Middle State University. So when I tell you, and I tell the story all the time. So the provost actually hired me for my first job at West Georgia. So he was actually the one that brought it up to me that, they were looking for a program coordinator and he thought I would be good. So I got a second chance to work with him because I always, joke with him. He left me 4 days after he hired me. So just knowing that, he was the one to really also have this vision of how do we bridge that gap between academics and public safety. He was the one that was like, it has to come here. You bring it here and we expand upon it. So having the dean, having the chair to really be behind me and say, let's just go all for it. Let's go for a certification and a minor, because most of the students that we have at our university now, it's a little bit different. We have a lot of online students, but we have a lot of students who are working, who are still just trying to figure out how best they can actually use some of these tools to either advance their career or get a career. So I was like, well, I mean, victim advocacy, it's one of those things in the state of Georgia right now where there's a lot of openings, but a lot of people don't know about it. And this is where I got at. And I'm like, okay, you guys don't have a victimology course? This is 2025. Like, what's going on? So I wrote in, we're going to incorporate that. We're going to incorporate so many courses from that, but also working with PACGA here, we're going to bring some of the things they have, bring an actual instructor that they have to actually teach so that they can get that feel for a professional who does it every single day instead of an academics who's just reading a book and you're looking at research. So I think it's just important to really intertwine that for students at Middle Georgia State University in itself, since it is fairly new. I mean, that university has only been existing as a university for only 10 years now. So it's still a building process. So with all the building of programs, really making a name for ourselves, I'm like, why not, you know, do something different? Why not do something that everybody's afraid of, especially in academia, of bringing in people who, haven't gone through the process of a PhD, but they have all the knowledge in the world to really do the job? Why not bring that in, incorporate that, and us work together? It just makes
And,
sense.
when you say PACGA, that's the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of
Yes.
Georgia, right? And it's their Victim Services Committee that worked with you, with all of you and your colleagues at University of West Georgia, to start this victim services curriculum in the first place, right? And,
Yes.
and the reason why I bring that up is it is so important that you've seen throughout not just your studies as an undergrad, but also as a professor, in what you're doing now, is that all of the different partners are so important, um, in order to make the whole system work, but ultimately to bring it back to the victim who, for the most part, when a victim comes into the system, it's a completely foreign language to them. And they've already been traumatized in the worst ways in some cases, um, that anyone could ever imagine. And then to have to be thrown into a criminal justice system where you have absolutely no idea what's going on. There's so many different players. And when they go into that hallway, like I said, and there's and a victim witness advocate comes out, and a police officer comes out, and a prosecutor comes out, and a clerk comes out, and you start hearing courtroom announcements, and this is where the arraignments are going to happen, and it's also overwhelming, and it's just revisiting more trauma, and to be able to bring all of those different players together in this system like you do, and to educate them on what they are going to see, or you're almost mapping it out, in a sense. And I know you've done a lot of extensive research on mapping, um, into how this is all going to work. And it really helps us when it comes to Marsy's Law, because I know Marsy's Law is also part of this training because it's so effective in Georgia. And what we do after we pass Marsy's Law, and after the citizens pass Marsy's Law in a state, we don't just leave. We as an entity, Marsy's Law, or as an organization, we stay and help to train and help to tell victim witness advocates and law enforcement partners, how this best works, how to inform victims, how to keep them notified, and how to actually maximize, um, the efficacy of meaningful and enforceable constitutional rights for victims. And Brittany, you make such a great point about, you mean you don't have victimology, you don't have a course in that? I mean, I know in law school, they don't, I don't even think they're up to a handful of mentions in law school books, textbooks, that mention the word victim just once. And which is, another one of the reasons why we just think it's so important at Marcy's Law to have meaningful and enforceable constitutional rights for victims as they enter this system. Now, before we wrap up, I just wanted to just ask you to just tell us a little bit about your course now that you're teaching. You're in the middle of listening to presentations from your doctoral candidates. Um, the makeup of the student in your class, uh, are very, very interesting, fascinating individuals in their own right. These are people who are in the system. These are sheriffs who are taking your class. Tell us a little bit about the kind of person who takes your class, and why what you're teaching them is important for them, and in the system.
So right now, there's about 20 students right now who are up for graduating next Thursday actually, and a lot of them, like you said, they're sheriffs, they're chiefs, they're deputy directors in all agencies like public health. I have somebody who works for the government, the FBI. Have somebody who works undercover for, I think, Department of Justice in Washington D.C. So we have pretty much everybody you can think of here. And since this program is so new, and since I'm also new as well here, this is my first semester coming in. A lot of them, it has been a struggle. This is a very new program. It's not molded yet as it should be. And so I'm trying to open their minds to saying, hey, use your experience, but also when you think about policies, procedures, strategic planning, assessments, evaluations, think about grounded on some type of scientific inquiry to where you're not just using your actual own opinion or what you've seen, that you also come into using some of those research tools, that background to ground what you do, but also use the data that you have. Data is so important, and I'm a data person. I've always been a data person. I always love numbers. I've always loved math. And one of the things that I kind of fell in love with when it came to data analytics and just data in general was the simple fact that you can actually tell a story from it. You can tell a story and you can mold it to a story if you do it the right way. So with the reports that I wrote in Arkansas, I'm actually about to send a report to Georgia Public Safety Training Center for law enforcement training. It tells a story. So you don't want to just be doing something just to do it. You want to ground it on something. If you're going to have law enforcement training, you don't want to just say, okay, we're, training them for so many hours, but how are you assessing them? How are you evaluating them? Is it effective? And if it is or is not effective, what are you doing to change it? So these are just some of the things that we're teaching these individuals in this program to say, hey, you guys are doing great. No matter what, you're doing great right now, but you can be doing better by having something grounded, but also producing something that you can look back at and say, this is what we did, but now look at what we're doing now. So that's the whole goal of this program, to kind of help these individuals in leadership positions to strengthen them on that side of the field.
Yeah, it's so exciting, and it is clear from having gotten to know you and from talking with you today, you bring such a great energy to really everything that you do. And I'm sure you do that in the classroom itself. And it is really exciting to know the groundbreaking stuff that you've already done, and to know with your dedication and your energy that the road ahead is really, really exciting for building curriculum around victim services, around victim advocacy, and around victims' rights. And please know that our partnership just is really at the beginning when it comes to Marsy's Law and helping you and what you're going to be doing. And we will always want to be able to be helpful and be a part of educating and teaching people about how Marsy's Law is important and relevant to all of the things that you're doing around victims' rights and victims' advocacy. And so please know that we will always be here to be a helpful partner with you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That helps. So I can write y'all on the list of, okay, let me contact them because I know I need them. I'm literally so appreciative of all the help, all the opportunities, all the people that's passionate about everything they do, because I just feel like having all these people, all these agencies, all these entities, and bringing them together, letting them be known, especially in this program. We have everybody you can think of. It's almost like I want them to continue to work together, to bounce ideas off each other, to help each other with research and grow. That's all I really want. I just want to see everybody grow together, together.
Well, congratulations on what you've done, for your courage. Best of luck in what you're about to do and for the end of the semester. And once you're all wrapped up, have a very Merry Christmas.
Oh, thank you so much. You too.
Thanks so much for taking the time, Brittany.
No problem.
All right, see you soon.
Bye.